are offending God.
All right, hey guys, how are you? Just to let you know, I'm going to be stepping out. I have Casey Yochum here, so this is not a pulling him into a video. He's actually here in my house, and I'm going to let him tell his story without being censored. How he's led to say it. If you guys have any questions, I think he's agreed to answer questions, whether he's doing it during or after. He can see all the comments, all the chats, but give him some grace. I think this is your first time doing this, right?
First time.
First time doing this. So without further ado, guys, here's Brother Casey. Go ahead. And you can move the microphone as you see fit and all that. So, that's all right. Don't worry about that.
Hello.
It's right here. If you want to, you can move this around, whatever you need. Do you want?
Can you hear me?
If you can hear you, they can hear you.
Can you hear me now? All right. Casey Yochum.
Do you want this or do you want the chat?
We can do it like this.
Okay. We'll do the chat when you're done.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hello, Casey Yochum. How everybody doing? I get this opportunity today. It's been very awesome to meet this gentleman, and he's given me a platform to come to you live and give you my story. I don't think a lot of people have gotten to listen to a good story as such. This comes from my heart. As I've kind of started this, it's one kid saved. Means the world to me more than anything. So bear with me. It's going to be hard, and we'll get through it together. How this works, I was molested by my high school soccer coach. Pretty hard deal. Going through this, coming clean with this as an adult, it's been you don't talk about this as a guy. You don't talk about this to your friends. You don't talk about this to anybody. You don't talk to this to your mom. You don't talk to this to your pastor. As a male, it comes across very hard. But I want to save some kids.
You can't see the comments, but I just want you to know they're saying, brother, it's okay. They got you. Just they want you to know that they got you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, as I go through my story, I'm going to start at the beginning of the story. Just kind of give you a quick detail of my life, where we are now from where I was. My parents divorced when I was in third grade. Going from there, it was my father was never around for a while, all the way up until now. So being fatherless was very hard. As a single mother, she worked her bottom off, and she never was an athlete. She never played sports, and I was always in sports my entire life. We moved around a lot, and so me going to practice and having somebody bring me home from practice, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, wasn't nothing new. They always wanted to be able to help, where my mom was always working. Going through school, I had an older sister who was 2 years older than me. She went to go live with my grandmother when she was a freshman. This is the time that we ended up meeting Brent McGee. My mom started dating a guy when I was in 6th grade when we moved to Slaughterville, and he moved in a couple weeks after we moved to Slaughterville, and I caught him actually cheating on my mom when I was a freshman, and I punched him. He punched me several times, and my mom finally left and got out of that situation. We moved to some apartments in Norman, and my soccer coach, which was my freshman football coach, he also moved to the same apartments that following summer. I met Brent McGee as a freshman. He was my freshman football coach. Excuse me. And he knew what kind of relationship I had with my mom. And he knew that I was an only child after my sister had moved out. So meeting this coach, he let me know that his parents and them owned the Watumka Dairy Queen. And so he let my mom know that since she was just in this abusive relationship and got out of this relationship, that he could kind of take care of me and kind of show me a life that I wasn't used to for a while, because his parents owned the Dairy Queen. We go to Watumka, and we're there. First weekend we're there, I get to meet some guys, and they were under Brent's wing, just like I was. And at the time I wasn't, but when everybody saw Brent, they were like, "Hey, you got a new guy underneath your wing." And so it wasn't anything to me to feel as if it was neat to have this relationship with this coach. We would go back and forth. We'd go to football games. We would go to basketball games, OU basketball games. And he was always there for me as much as I could be there, and was always convinced my mom that I was his life was better, that if I was there, it was changing my life for the better. And so he made that sound, meaning the life that I was living, that he was going to bring me in to a life that was going to be better than what I could have ever enjoyed myself with my mom. So wanting to be loved, wanting to be spoken highly of, because I was good at sports. Having a male role model that you thought everybody looked up to, that was a good reason to go ahead and get part of that. And it was neat to feel loved for the first time and someone brag about you. With my mom not being a sports person herself, it wasn't really second nature. She just knew I was good at sports, and so she loved me that way. I became pretty good at sports. Noble got soccer when I was a freshman, and the coach moved across the street from me in the same apartments. And my sophomore year, he said, "Well, you're not going to go to Norman. You're going to go to Noble. You're not going to play school baseball because it's the same season." And so I would play American Legion baseball in the summer and play school soccer during the season. And my freshman year, he had this girlfriend, Donna McGee, who would pick me up at baseball games and take me to the soccer games, and I would change and get ready to go play soccer. So after my freshman year was up, my soccer coach, he said, "Well, you're not going to play school ball anymore." So I didn't play school ball. I played American Legion. I would say the grooming on his part started then. He gained my trust. He gained my mom's trust. Going through that process, not knowing what grooming was back then, but just thinking that somebody actually cared for me. He was also showing that his life that he had with the Dairy Queen and his parents being married, that it was a great life that they had together, and why wouldn't I want something that awesome to be around? And seeing that he is successful in my eyes as a freshman, you want to idolize and kind of be like and see that as a role model. So I saw that as a role model. Like, yeah, I idolize this guy because he seemed like he had life going on, and everybody loved Brent. He would make sure that he could make everybody laugh in the room and gain everybody's trust. He was big with that, and he felt like he could always work a crowd. He knew how to talk to people, and he always knew how to tell stories to get people to just kind of laugh with him. So, give me 1 second.
They're used to me doing that, so just take a drink whenever you need it.
I was about to say. Um, so, pick that back up. Everybody loved Brent. Everybody knew he was thought he was a great guy. It wasn't nothing new for me to be there, and the guys that were talking to me that were from Wetumpka, some of the things that they would normalize right away when I was first meeting them, the biggest thing to them, as in they thought it was cool to always talk about jacking off. And what do you mean you don't jack off? And they were normalizing it, and I didn't know. And they were saying at the time, you're not cool, you're not this, and you're not that. And everybody would just kind of laugh about it together, where I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is new. I wasn't used to anything like that. So they normalized more than anything. They were good kids. Everybody seemed to love these two best friends. And so Brent also spoke highly of them. And going from there, it was just kind of like, oh, well, I see the relationship that Brent had with these older kids. I wanted that same relationship. And that was, at the time, the cool coach was buying Boone's Farm, and we were going out and hanging out, and he had a pool, and we'd all go to the pool and drink, and his older friends, and they would normalize kind of like take bets, doing this, jumping in the pool naked, jumping out, running around the car naked, losing bets, winning bets if you had to pay up a bet. And so it wasn't nothing new, just you thought you were hanging with the guys. And Brent made it to be like, we're in Wetumpka, ain't nobody going to know in Noble what you're doing in Wetumpka. I started teaching swim lessons with Brent. He always bragged about, his parents had the only pool in the ground at Wetumpka High School, or in Wetumpka town. So he'd been teaching private swim lessons for kids all summer long. And so we go to Wetumpka, and my freshman year, I would say that I dove on asphalt as a freshman, and it killed 3 of my teeth. Well, my mom didn't have the money to pay for getting bleaching. So my sophomore year, Brent would go and say, hey, everybody says you got a great smile, but then he was always the big guy that always talk about, but what about your teeth? Everybody sees your teeth. And then came up with a solution that, hey, everybody sees your teeth when you smile. I can get you this done in Wetumpka cheaper, and this is how you can pay it off. This is after a night of drinking. And so it's like, he made it more of a big deal than I would say I did, but then he brought up a solution to fix that big deal. And so by going through that, of course, as someone points out your flaws, but they know how to fix the flaws, you would want everything in the world to be like, all right, let's do this. Yeah, we are in Wetumpka. And so, it was either you jack me off or I jack you off, and this is how you can pay for your debt. And what happens in Wetumpka stays in Wetumpka. But that obviously didn't happen. It carried over on in Norman. And so from there on out, it just kind of, he'd find shoes, or back then, believe it or not, I did have some hair. And of course, short on the top, long on the back. So I needed it cut quite a bit. Once I got it cut, he'd always say, just don't cut it, keep it. I thought about going shorter, and he was like, no, everybody really likes it long, yada, yada. But then I also wanted my hair cut about every 10 days because that's how I like that clean cut look. And so that was more of a debt that I'd always be indebted to him because obviously I couldn't get a job working at Watumka Dairy Queen for a night on a weekend. So that's how I would pay my bets, where once my mom had her trust, kind of backtrack real quick, once my mom trusted Brent, my mom just kind of, she was into jewelry sales and she traveled East Coast to West Coast. So I was put in Brent's arms basically, and all the trust was given right away. So bear with me. So, where were we? So the trust, my mom had Brent's trust, so she traveled. If I was in Wetumpka, we really didn't have cell phones back then, so she trusted Brent to take care of me, help me out, and she thought he was a great guy, and I needed that mentor to be able to lead me in the right direction. And Brent knew a lot of people. Everybody seemed to love Brent. Didn't have any haters, and got along well with all the other coaches he ever came in contact with. And his biggest thing, and he'd kick back and kind of laugh and be like, "I kill him with kindness." And so that was a way where, as going through sports, he would tell me, you're gonna have a lot of people jealous about our relationship or this or that, but just kill them with kindness and just kind of that's what you're going to do. And once you get in this tornado, you don't really know how to get out because he allows and promotes certain things and shoes and trips, games, and would say, hey, well, you know how to pay for this, or you really look, if I can get you this, my senior year, he helped me get a limousine for my senior year, and there was a way I had to pay for that. But to me, of course, I wanted a limousine to go to prom my senior year. But there was things that they would throw out there, so it was that just kept me coming back and lured me back in. If there was any type of separation, anytime I would start trying to distance myself, he would actually call this, when I would jack him off or he would jack me off, it was called the Pablo. And so when we would be on the soccer field, we would play other soccer teams that had Spanish kids on the team. And so he came up with the word escuela, for we would school you in soccer. So then it was okay for him to always, when I didn't come over and pay up my bill or what I owed him from what he helped me out with, he'd always start just calling me Pablo in front of everybody. And so, and just kind of get that stern look, and everybody knows what that stern look is from Brent. And so he'd be like, okay, where you been, Pablo? And you're just kind of like, wow, like, I can't say nothing, and I'm not going to say nothing. But you would start saying it more and more and be like, where were you at, Pablo? And so, we had an important soccer game to play Carl Albert one year. And he told everybody it was for missing practice is why he held me out the first 20 minutes. But he was mad that I didn't come over during spring break and pay up Pablo's. So he held me out the first 20 minutes of the game. And a lot of people really didn't know how to take that. I led the state in scoring my senior year. but I had one of the best games I ever had, beating Carl Albert 5-2, and I scored 5 goals against Carl Albert. So I guess it was all right to hold me out for 20 minutes. Having that relationship, you do want to make yourself known, and you want to be talked about in a great way by all your peers. And I was known very well in football and soccer and baseball. Me and my best friend, we tried out for the Atlanta Braves my senior year. Of course, that didn't work out. My first scholarship to play any sport that I played was to go play baseball at Seminole State. I went and played college soccer first. After scoring 80 goals in high school, I started every game as a keeper. So there was a good transition there. I just wanted to be on the field. There was another forward there that I wasn't going to get any playing time over them, so being on the field was important to me. While I played college soccer, Brent McGee came to my games. He brought other players, and he made me this higher up, as I see it now, as more like a recruiting tool, to be like, this is the kind of relationship that I had with Casey, and look what he's doing now. He's somebody. And during that time, I was, when you can't speak to whomever, you're scared to tell anybody. Well, you revert to drinking. You revert to using drugs. You find a way to live in life instead of taking your own life. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So you get by with life. You make the best, and you try to keep doing the right thing. And keeping everything inside is hard. It's, still coming out as much as I have today. It is. It's hard. Because I have 2 daughters that I've been just very protective of, and didn't know why I was actually so protective for a long time. Thank God this was pushed back in the back of my mind forever. Thank you. So trying to get on with life, knowing things have been hard, feeling like a letdown from your mom. That was the biggest thing. I felt like I let my mom down during this time. But my mom was never, like I said, she never played sports, so she never came and watched me play a college soccer game. But the man who molested me did. And so I quit soccer after one season. I didn't want that bond anymore. And I had to have shoulder surgery. I went and had shoulder surgery, and in the spring, and decided I was going to go play football at Northeastern A&M in Miami, Oklahoma. and be a preferred walk-on. But during that time, my first card went to crap. So I was just going to go up to Northeastern A&M in Miami, Oklahoma, and make the team and just just hang out on campus and not worry about coming back and forth. And Brent McGee approaches me and says, "Hey, I can buy you a car, but you know how you can pay it off." And he financed me a yellow Firebird with T-tops, and that brought us. I was creating distance from him, and he brought up something that he knew that I would really want, and allowed that transformation for me to come back and just be like, "Yes, please," because he would say, "You know, you can't play college football and not have a car. You can't be like that. You got to have this. You got to have that. You got to have these clothes. You don't want to show up on campus without all this stuff." So planting seeds. Then you're just kind of like, "Well, you're right. You know me better than anybody." And then, he would go back through time and basically say, "I know you better than anybody else. I know what makes you happy. I know what makes Casey Yochum thrive." And so then you believe him because he's still been there since you were a freshman, and he's got your trust. He's made his lifestyle sound better than the lifestyle that you were living with your own parents. So he brings you in that way. And so the more you want to be like him, you agree with what he has to say. And so you just take that to heart. And you're like, "You are right. You do know me better than anybody else. I do need to do this." And so back at it again. So I went to college and played college football. Guess who showed up playing at my games playing college football? Brent McGee. And he had 2 or 3 or 4 kids with him. My mom didn't come watch me play a college football game. So now I have this perpetrator who is a coach and tells me all the time that he loves me. I'm the son he's never had. He's so thankful and thoughtful for me, how I make him look good just being around him. And everybody appreciates the way I play in my heart and how I am with sports. So, you want to be the best. I didn't know what to do. I left soccer hoping to get away from that. He reeled me in, hook, line, and sinker. I went back to playing football. He bought the car before I even left to go to school. So how do you break that chain without coming clean to anybody? How do you talk about it? You hear about coaches who have had relationships with females in school, but you never hear about coaches having relationships with boys in school. And I believe that he honestly knew this. Most kids, most boys that I have found out will commit suicide before they say a word to anybody. Or they'll die of being an alcoholism. Or they'll die of drugs. Because it's not a norm, and it makes you feel not normal. It makes you feel less than normal. It makes you feel at times where you do want to take your life. Thank God that hadn't happened. I got in trouble. I had some DUIs. Peeing in the park, eluding police. I had some misdemeanors. I knew I had to get that cleaned up. And I always wanted to be a fireman. And it was one thing after another where you had to wait 5 more years to get this clean. You had to have your record. Your record had to be clean with nothing on it for 5 more years. And it was just something I could never walk away from it until like 22, 23. And finally, the good Lord put it and suppressed it so far behind that it was never even thought of again. And I tried after that. All I did from there on was to build my integrity and build the person who I am, who I know I was. And so it took years to be able to show everybody who the real Casey Yochum is. But during that time, when I was having the hardest of my times, he got to look like Mr. Goody Two-Shoes and say, you know, I tried everything for that kid. I brought him in. And we know he came from a single mom who wasn't around all the time. And then he got the, Brent, you did the best you could. That's you, Brent. You bring all the kids in. You're such a great man. God appointed you to do this. No, God didn't appoint him to do it. He's a con artist. He lies to the parents. He lies to the grandmas, the aunts, the uncles. He gets everybody eating the Brent McGee saga. He makes you love him. He laughs. He fills the room with laughter, and he makes you think that he's the next best thing to a role model that any of these adolescents could have. But after going back and looking and trying to decide why it was me, excuse me, why was it me? Was it me? What is it about me that he wanted to be so involved with me? I didn't have a father involved. There was no dad. There was really no aunts and uncles, nobody else that was close in my family. So once he convinced my mom, there was no one else to convince that he was a good guy. So in these weak relationships with parents, older parents, you know, all he needed was somebody like me to say, look what I've done for Casey, and your son could be just like Casey. And so the older I did get, he would recruit me to be like, hey, let's go to a football game here. Let's go do this. And he wanted to be seen in public and take pictures. He wanted pictures of me and my daughters together to show what kind of relationship I had with them. And he coached me, and he wanted all of us to have pictures together. And I know, looking back at it now, that I was a recruiting tool for him. And so he could look back and say, look at Casey now. Casey's doing this. This is Casey. And so me being a number, an object to him, that's all I ever was. I was somebody he took advantage of. I was weak-minded. I was vulnerable at the same time. I just wanted to be loved by a role model that everybody looked up to, and how he bragged about me in the sports world. And that took a long time to overcome. As I got older, I was able to get in the military, and I tried to be I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and they said I needed 5 letters of recommendation all the way up to the state senator because of my prior problems I had, plus I had quite a few surgeries. So I got 7 letters of recommendation all the way up to the state senator, and took those to the Navy, and they said, sorry, but we never thought this would ever happen. We've never had anybody do what you did. We're still not able to get you in. The Oklahoma National Guard was right there. I went over there and showed them everything, and the Oklahoma National Guard saved my life. the drill sergeant, or the sergeant there, he couldn't believe what I had. And he was just in awe of what I had done. And everything I could ever do since then was to establish my name and get away from Brent. Deployed in 2011 to Afghanistan as a combat medic. Lost some friends. Not once did I ever think about this. You know, I had a top secret security clearance. Questions like this came up. Never thought about it because I never saw it as, I guess, as being molested. I kind of saw it as being loved, I guess, in a certain way, but not putting two and two together. The fire department, questions like this came up in a polygraph. That was never seen. It wasn't until 2019 that I was nominated for Bear of the Month. And this kind of included with past athletes or past graduates from Noble that has been doing really well. And it was just kind of a highlight of how they are and what they're doing, and a good recognition that got out there. And I was asked to speak about Brent McGee and influential people in my life. And during this time, I spoke highly of him in this interview. After that interview, I didn't know why. It was sickening that I spoke so highly of him. And I was lost because I still had to find out now. It's called the trauma bond. And I had a trauma bond with Brent. And throughout the time, there was kids that would come forward and he would say, hey, I'm inviting this kid, this kid, and this kid. You want to go to the football game with us? And so again, I was nothing but a recruiting tool to say, look all this, what I did for Casey, and look where he is now. I was, again, lost because I didn't know why I spoke highly of him, and it felt so gross. Time goes by, a couple months go by, and I met a girl from church, and we go on our first date, and she says, tell me something that nobody knows about you. And what flew out of my mouth right after that was the scariest thing that I ever been through or ever said, that I knew that came out of my mouth. And it was so serious and so direct. And I had said I'd been molested by my soccer coach. I never thought about it. I never questioned it, ever. Now I'm lost with a lot of questions. Not understanding why this came out of my mouth. It felt like an out-of-body experience, because normally when I would think, thinking back on this, when you ask somebody that question, tell me something that nobody knows about you, you would sit back and try to think for a second. You'd be like, what does nobody know about me? And I didn't even do that. It flew out of my mouth without me thinking it. It just, hit you in the face like a bat. And it was just kind of like, whoa, what did I just say? I didn't know what I just said. It was scary. I didn't have any answers. I had a whole lot of questions. A few more months go by. We go through, and I met one of my friends at the Mont in Norman, Oklahoma. And we counseled each other quite a bit. And we became really good friends because I met them at church. And I was normally always single. And they liked me as a person because every time they would get in an argument and talk about divorce, I was the only one that would say, stay in the ship, stay together, stay for those kids. And that's how I gained their respect, is because I didn't tell them to get a divorce. And we became pretty good friends out of that. And actually, a couple years prior to that, his wife at the time, she actually texted me and said, Casey, can my daughter text you or call you and sing happy birthday to you? And called me and sang happy birthday to me. That's how good of friends we were. So when we met at the Mont, he threw up about 30 minutes of his garbage, and he was late. And beautiful sunny day. And it's kind of like, well, what the F you got? And out of my mouth again. I wasn't thinking it. I said I'd been molested by my high school soccer coach. He texted my pastor that day. My pastor texted me and said he believed me. Lost. Again. The girl I started dating didn't have really a lot of questions, a lot of answers. We kind of hit a brick wall where she still wanted to go to do things out publicly and go here and go there. And I couldn't because I was lost. I couldn't have conversations with anybody because it was at the tip of my tongue of why is this going on? Why me? I wasn't thinking this. Just a month later, a friend of mine who I deployed with asked me if I wanted to go to Watumka because his parents had 20 acres on a catfish farm. And we could get away. And he was like, well, I'd like to speak to this coach that you spoke highly about who still owns Dairy Queen. And I'm like, all right. So we go to the lake and I call Brent. And Brent's all chummy and he was like, yeah, I come by Dairy Queen and Dairy Queen's on me. It's like, all right. So we go by Dairy Queen. We get fed and Brent's a good storyteller. And so we're just about to leave and Brent goes, hey, I got a story to tell you. And we're like, all right. And he proceeds to tell me about Mr. Jackson, who moved in from Illinois, who beat him in the mayoral race. And Brent couldn't believe him that he beat him in the mayoral race because he wasn't from Watumka. Brent was from Watumka. And since all these people knew Brent, and they didn't know this veteran very well, that him and his wife moved to Watumka and had a girl with her. Excuse me. And he proceeds to tell me that the guy was molesting kids and raping kids. And the FBI contacted Brent, and Brent helped him do a sting operation to catch this guy. And he was so happy to get this molester out of town. And during this story, I swear I saw a ghost. Everything just made sense to me at this time. The interview, the two conversations I had about being molested by my soccer coach. And hearing this come out of his mouth, talking about another mayor that I got to hear him talk about, I knew immediately at that time that what I was trying to figure out and come true with is I had been molested by my soccer coach. I saw a ghost. I still couldn't even tell my friend right then. Cut the story short, we got back in my truck and I told my buddy, I said, remind me to tell you something about this guy. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I'm a grown man. Why? How? Why did he tell me this story? Why didn't, I think about it now, if I would have never heard it come out of his mouth, I don't think I would have put two and two together until, or if never. It came out of his mouth and he was talking about somebody else. But it lit the light in my head knowing that, wait a second, you were molested. This was you that it happened to. This guy molested you. And he just spoke like he was talking to a buddy, like, yeah, this other guy was molesting kids. And now he's in prison for it. And I was in awe, like, as soon as it hit me, everything's going through. I'm like, you have the audacity to have this type of a conversation with me. And I know he didn't mean for it to happen. But God did. All this caught up in my mind and all this stuff that finally came out. It was an explosion of feelings of knowing exactly what I was having thoughts of. And this coach actually coming out saying that, it was almost like, yeah, I'm admitting what I did to you. But in a way that, I guess if it only happened to you, you'd only understand that how it felt. I've always been a fighter in life. I've always took up for every kid, anybody that didn't have a voice. I had a really good group of friends. Anytime any of my friends needed anything, they came to me. They knew I could help. They knew I would be there for them. They knew all we got to do is get a hold of Casey. Casey will take up for me. Casey will be there for me. Every one of my friends know that. It doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. My friends know I'd always be there for them. And I had a girlfriend at the time that didn't understand why everybody thought that way of me. I'm like, it doesn't matter who it is. Like I would leave and go pick somebody up at 2 o'clock in the morning if they're calling me because they trust me and they know I'll be there for them. They know I'm on that phone call away. They know I'll be there. I don't care. I may be mad, I may be upset, but I'm going to give them a hard time and we'll laugh about it. But I'm the guy that ought to be there. I wish at the time, I honestly do, that she understood me better than what she did and wasn't very selfish at the time, because that made me fight more battles than what I was up against. Because she knew I wanted to catch Brent. I knew I was going to catch him. Even though he had the same girlfriend since I was a freshman, I knew I didn't feel like I was the only one. But if I was the only one, I was going to make sure everybody knew Brent McGee did this to me. It's the right thing to do. It took me 5, almost 6 months to figure out what I was going to do. November 28th of 2020. It was May 25th of 2020 when I heard this come out of Brent's mouth. So November 28th of 2020 is when I decided I was going to drive down to Watumka and take my English Bulldog with me. So I couldn't get out of my truck, and he'd have to get in my truck. And I was just retiring from the fire department, medically retired. And he wanted me to be an athletic director, give me a job. And he said, hey, I can get you a job, and we can do this, this, this. And so I took several recording devices, my dog, and he got on my truck, and we went looking for property. About an hour and 47 minutes into our conversation, I asked Brent, why didn't he ever say he was sorry? And the hardest thing was to get this to happen, to allow Brent to have free range of speech over me. You know, I had to put myself back into a freshman's mentality and allow him to feel superior over me, the way he could talk. So over that hour and 47 minutes, he trusted me, and he felt like he could be able to say anything. And so I had to build that up to allow him to speak freely. And, you know, after I asked him that, I said, you know, you molested me. He wasn't over remorseful at all. He wasn't bothered by it. I was actually more hurt trying to make conversation with him, and for him to come back and blame me for being such a good athlete. And he just wanted to know everything about me. And he was just infatuated with me several times. But you were just a good athlete. I just wanted to know everything about you. Everybody knew Yochum. I was never like you, but now I wanted to know everything about you. I wanted to be like you. I had 3 guns in my car that night. If I knew, I thought I was going to, if I thought I knew what I was going to hear, I knew what I was going to do. Thank God that didn't happen. The arrogance that he displayed when I talked to him. He wasn't remorseful. He wasn't sympathetic. He wasn't caring. And it was that time, by his actions, I knew I wasn't the only one. He proved to me right then and there that I was not the only one. And so, since then, I knew I was going to make it my damnedest to make sure that he was going to be shown to light. Because if it was truly an accident, if it was truly an act of not being right in the mind at the time, but he made me feel just like a number. And that's what I felt like when I was there. I didn't feel anything. I felt a stone cold, sick SOB right beside me that didn't give two craps what I was saying. I know a lot of kids that's been in the place that I've been in since myself, under Brent's wing. This is why I'm here. This is what my movement is I'm a voice for all those boys that don't have a word to speak up on. There's a lot of kids in that town. There's Holdenville, there's Watumka, there's Dustin, there's Henrietta, there's Wewoka. All these surrounding towns have kids who stay the night at McGee's house over and over again. There's kids that's passed away that stayed over at his house. There's kids in prison that's been at his house. And gets what he gets. He gets praise for supposedly helping these kids. Get old boy Brent. That's what everybody thinks. That's what the locals think. The elders that know Brent's family. That's what they truly believe. There's no way this could happen. Look at Jerry Sandusky. No one ever thought that could happen. Look at Jimmy Seville. No one ever saw that. Look into both of those cases. Those guys were idolized. Those guys were thought that they were the best thing that could have happened to those towns, those people. Jimmy Seville, he had hospitals built. He had millions given to him so he could build hospitals. And the whole entire time he was raping little girls. And no one ever knew it. And guess what? He didn't have a girlfriend. Brent's gay as can be. Donna is a cover. I promise you. They've lived in separate bedrooms for, that I don't know of, what I've heard. I've been told the past 10 years, maybe 15 years. I've been told quite a few things. And a lot of them will make you sick. They make you think that they're doing the right thing, that they're helping that town of Watumka out. No. They're two evil people among many other evil people in high-ranking positions in that town that are covering for each other. Even probably from Watumka with the middle school principal. Birds of a feather flock together. All these guys that Brent buys cars for, which he does, he puts under their wings. He still pays people's bills. He still allows certain people to drive vehicles of theirs. We're talking about kids. These kids now are 30 plus years old, that he brought in when they had no father, when they had a deceased father, when they had a father that's in prison. And they've convinced all these other moms and all these other stepdads or boyfriends that he's the next best thing that anybody could have to a sense of being productive in life, and look at all these other examples that he has under his wing. Look what they've grown up to be. A con man? Absolutely. A conjurer? Absolutely. Well-spoken guy, makes you laugh, pulls the rug out from the other people over here, where you would never believe it, because he gives so much gives back to the society of this town. He does so much good for Wetumka. How could he be so bad this other way? Does that make sense? But he does so good in every other way. Maybe that really doesn't happen. No, it does. He wants you to believe like he's the best thing that's ever happened to that town. And all he's been doing is living off his father's coattails. I ask you, the town of Wetumka, to open your eyes. Start asking questions. Trying to figure out why 75% of the people that worked at the staff that worked at Dairy Queen were all males. Ask yourself that.
Kids or adults?
Kids and adults. From the adults that I've spoken to and the kids I've spoken to, Brent starts grooming these kids at 13, 14, 15 years old, when it's the only fast food restaurant in town. Of course everybody wants to work there. Everybody's going to go to Dairy Queen for ice cream. If you don't think this isn't happening, you're still under a rock. Please wake up. See what's happening in your town. Take your town back. Ask questions. Get answers. And don't stop until you get answers. Because if you think this is the only story that should be circling Wetumka, I'm just a number. And I'm not even from Watumka.
How many kids are you currently working with right now that have had similar experiences with this same guy in your little town there?
I know of 3 kids. I know of 5 people, all the way up to 53. 53, 49, 45.
Tell what you've done to get him removed from his job.
And just so you know, we call Mary, she said, because of your conviction and bravery, other victims of this predator have come forward. This man's wife is the superintendent of Watumka Public Schools. And I want, because part of our platform is what can we do as Christians, like Jim was saying, what have you done at this point? What's happening because of you just telling your story?
Okay.
Right? That would you.
So from my story, kind of where we are now, this is something that I haven't stopped pursuing because we're trying to save kids. I don't want any kid to go through and live the life that I had. I don't. It's very hard to fight, to hide, and my memory's kind of elapsed because of my trauma that I've been to, and I hate that. But I finally went before the State Department of Education about a month ago and spoke right in front of Ryan Walters.
And who is he, just so that you guys know?
Ryan Walters is the State Superintendent Secretary of Oklahoma. And they suspended his license.
Not Ryan Walters to Brent McGee.
Excuse me.
Not Ryan Walters.
Not Ryan Walters, but they voted to suspend Brent McGee's license. with him having a chance to fight and get his license back. As of last week, Brent surrendered his license and hasn't been decided not to fight to keep his license and get an attorney and keep his license when his license wouldn't expire until the 2027. So no contestant there. After they suspended it, he went ahead and surrendered it within a week to 10 days later. Pretty much admittance of guilt. We know that. So where I want to move forward from now, what I'd like to do is, I first started off, Carol Bush and Darrell Weaver, they were but they had created a bill to try to get the statute of limitations taken off the books in the state of Oklahoma. So where I would like to go with that is to find someone to author a bill. So now that we have a proven case of me being over the age of 45 years old, recorded, and getting the statute of limitations lifted. In other states have a 0 stipulations for the statute of limitations. You can be however old, and I probably wouldn't know it today. I still probably wouldn't have all the answers if I would have never heard him talking about the mayoral race on May 25th at the Dairy Queen when the other guy beat him, who also went to prison for doing exactly what Brent McGee's doing. So, if there's a state legislator out there, let's get together and create a bill and get the statute of limitations lifted in the state of Oklahoma so we can start saving lives. Because
that football player last week.
so I can already tell you that we've already started saving 8 lives. There's 8 lives that we've started saving already. I say we because I got a lot of people behind me praying for this situation to blow up and kids come forward, because kids, they don't need to go what I've gone through. So we're going to fight tooth and nail, and please, let's author a bill and get this up in front of the House so we can go ahead and get the statute of limitations raised.
Mention their names. Representative West.
Representative West.
Senator Bullard.
Senator Bullard.
Representative Talley.
Representative Talley. If you're listening to this, please, let's author a bill. Let's put it through the House. Let's vote on it. Let's get this lifted. I was 46 years old when this finally came to light. And if you don't think God was involved, you're wrong. He had every light to make this come out, and he made it come out his way. So, you guys have anything else?
Do you want to take some questions?
Sure, I'll take some questions.
Let me flip the screen for you, and then I'll let you have a couple of thoughts if you want. So here's the
I'll say something.
here's the questions here. So if you guys want to ask some questions, he can see your questions. They'll pop up here, and then if you just read them and answer. But when you do answer, make sure you, like, let's say that's Mary.
Where's
But if you see the comments here,
Mary?
right there, visit. That's Mary. But if you see here, just address them by name so they know whose comment you're addressing.
Okay.
I'll let you get a couple thoughts after that you see them.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. That's something I can say.
Yeah. Because we're all working together in this now.
Let's see, Mary. Several law enforcement agencies are involved in this investigation. Multiple victims have provided statements. Some of these are young. Those crimes can be prosecuted. Yes, you are correct. Praise God.
Praying for you, Casey, and all the victims.
Let's see, where do we go down
It's
here?
not a touchscreen.
Huh?
It's not a touchscreen, it's a Mac.
My apologies.
I mean, I can read them off to you if you want.
Well, yeah, because I'm up here with about restream. I don't want to mess this up.
Well, if you don't have to, they'll come in automatically.
Okay.
The bottom ones are the newest ones.
I got you.
I made a comment that perverts always blame their victims and make them feel like they're guilty for the behavior of the pervert.
That's exactly how he made me feel.
Even at your age, 49 years old, and he still made you feel that way.
Yes. Absolutely. It is. If he wasn't this or if he wasn't that, then I wouldn't have done this. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And one of his biggest things that he always calls anybody that he has interest in, I mean, I know there's younger kids that he would nickname them like Little Yoke. So now you got a nickname of me, and you see what I'm doing in life. And so obviously if he promotes me of doing something really well, being in a small town, it would behoove you to be like that somebody. And he made that somebody. So now he's like your agent. So if you have a nickname, that Brent's giving you a nickname, there's a reason. He likes you. There's more than just like. If he's bought you a car, you've had to pay it off a certain way. I know you have.
What kind of question is that? Somebody just asked. What do you do if you have a cousin who goes to prison for accidentally killing someone?
Forget
kind of question is
Forget
that?
Forget that.
Just I don't know what. That has nothing to do with your.
I've got a Restream Warriors. If you want to look at this little white piece up here, get this off here so I can see questions.
Oh, that's if you want to comment back. You can type it a comment back if you want. It'll go to. Yeah. Can you talk about how others enabled this abuse? Oh, there you go. His wife, the superintendent. How did this? Yeah, that's a good.
Let's see here.
How did they enable the abuse? Superintendent, peers.
Can you talk about how others enabled this abuse? Sit back and watch it happen
Yeah, how did they enable it? Like,
by promoting that Brent's a great guy. That knowing that when this guy has only but when he has parties at his house in the pool, all the kids know that no girls are ever allowed. Only boys are allowed at his pool parties. And the wife knows this, and she's the superintendent. You can go look at everything and see for yourself. These boys have been told that they're not even allowed to have girlfriends when they stay over there at the house.
so you were told as a kid you can't have a girlfriend when you're 13, whatever, how old you were?
13, 14, 15.
Did he ever tell you why?
Nope.
Huh.
Well, he knew that he'd have a girlfriend and leave him because the girl would be better than him.
Wow.
He always would, what he would tell me back then, and another one of his lines would be like, so you can pay up this or you can pay that off, but it's better than having a girlfriend, so you're not getting a girlfriend pregnant. So I can do this to you. So you having a boyfriend or having a girlfriend was highly frowned upon. And it wasn't hidden. It was well known. And if you had a girlfriend, he would trash talk. He'd want to know everything. If you were having sex with her, if you wasn't having sex with her, like a little boy would want to know everything about your best friend that you were doing in this relationship. And he would try to get that close with you, then just kind of say, you shouldn't be with her because of this. You shouldn't be with her because of that.
Is his wife being held accountable?
I do not believe she has been held accountable. I think she is out there, from what I hear, she's out there stating that she's had no clue that this has been going on.
Do you believe her? With everything that's happened to you and all the other kids you're hearing about, is there any way that she can claim that she didn't know?
Was she ever home when boys spent the night?
She was always So when I met Donna, I was a freshman in high school.
And Donna is Brent's wife.
Donna McGee is Brent's wife. She would come clean the house while Brent was having soccer parties at the house. She would leave the house full of boys, and they would stay the night. And she would come back over the next morning with breakfast and cook. But she never stayed the night when all the boys stayed the night. I was also told. Now I was also told that she was. She actually found a shoebox full of naked pictures of half-naked boys underneath Brent's bed. And she went to one of Brent's best friends and asked him what he thought. And he thought that she asked him if he thought Brent was gay. And he said, I don't think so, but I don't think he should have those pictures either. And I don't think it's right
so
that.
Somebody said he's not gay and he has a box full of naked men, boys.
And a picture full of boys in a shoebox.
And he's not gay, they don't think.
And they don't think he's gay.
Do you think he's gay? Oh, you said you know he's gay.
I believe it's 100% cover that he did get married as a cover.
Well, he admitted to you in your recording. And I did
In the
post
recording.
They want to hear that recording on Mary's blog.
Okay,
That they want to hear that confession from him. It's there.
good. So yeah,
Avery Yochum, do you know who that is?
that's my daughter.
Oh, she asks, when did Brent stop working for the school? Did he just quit when you came to talk to the school board? His daughter's on. How about that?
Hi sis. So when the FBI showed up to August 9th of 2022, they showed up, 4 FBI agents showed up to Watumka High School. I think that's what Mary was referring to.
Yeah, the FBI came to school in August.
And so,
Brent stepped down, but he didn't really. Can you talk about how
so
he still
when
had access to
so
kids?
when the FBI showed up that day, when after showing up, he left that day, and I do know they spoke to the principal, they spoke to the superintendent, and they had Brent McGee all in a room. My name did come up during this conversation, and Brent left that day. Brent had he went to get an oil field job after that, but I also know he was back to work in the spring because it was so nice of the principal to tag Brent McGee after a track meet, talking about how well Brent McGee and these 2 other coaches did at this track meet. That was in the spring of 2023, after the FBI showed up on August 9th of 2022. And Brent didn't officially retire until of May of 23, per social media. So,
that's
and did
because
he,
of you coming out and telling your story.
and that was with me coming out and telling my story. And since then, even this year, Brent McGee's been seen walking the halls of the high school.
Wow.
All the way up until the State Department of Education
As a
hearing.
dad with kids in school, I can't even walk the halls of school, but this guy can.
Oh yeah, but he's
I don't
he's
know
not
what your kids are.
he's not in the wrong. But hey, get this. The staff and the school children never were told what the FBI investigation over Brent McGee was about.
Maybe we need to go to the school too.
Nothing was said
Of course not.
of why Brent McGee went on leave immediately.
And that's why
So
he's
that's
able
wh-
to do what he does and get away with it.
And that's why he was back at the schools coaching track in the spring.
I think it's fair to say that the public schools are the most dangerous place for a child to be in right now.
Well, his advice to the superintendent.
Right. So are your kids school age or no?
Oh yeah, I have a sophomore in college and a junior in high school.
In high school, you as a dad can't just walk in your daughter's high school and walk on the halls. You can't do that.
I can't do that.
But this guy who has been who's currently in investigation, your story's told, verified, recording, confessed, other people confessed publicly, is allowed to roam the halls freely.
Absolutely.
But you as a dad can't.
I cannot, but this pedophile can.
Isn't that interesting?
This pedophile can, but I can't.
I had a male teacher in middle school that would put his hand under the boys' shirts and rub rub our backs while making weird faces. We all got embarrassed. No idea if he was just odd or much worse. That's actually infuriating that this guy can walk the hall. I'm a parent. I can't even go to school my kids are, but this guy can.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's sick to, once you understand grooming and trying to be loved by an adult in a way that you think they love you for all the right reasons, and you're inside of a tornado, you really don't know what's happening inside that tornado. You're just having endorphins go off that says, yes, I feel good. I feel loved by someone who talks highly of me. And when you've never had that, it shows how important it is to have a father figure in your life, for one.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And a second, if you think something is off, because I've spoken to quite a few parents and teachers since this has come out, if you think something is off, it's 100% off.
Right.
Brent has always had kids staying the night at his house. The bed that he had got from his cousin, and it was called the Clam. It was a big round king-size bed with a half dome over the top of it, with a TV in it and a VCR and 2 mirrors, a radio, and a black light. So it was called the Clam. You didn't think about it. I mean, it was big enough where you really couldn't touch each other, but then he would buy you pornos and say he had to go take a shower. And I also know of another story that he said this to, and he actually recorded this young man jacking off in his bed. And this young man never said anything. But once he turned the TV off and he heard the VHS recorder on, he got up and went and looked in the closet and saw the power light on and didn't say a word to the coach. He didn't want playing time taken away from him, because he saw and he knew about playing time getting taken away from me.
Opening your mouth.
You can't say a word.
Because that your whole future gets messed up.
In the blink of an eye. You can't see it when you're in it. You can't. But once you're out of it and start waking up, and God starts showing you the light and turns the light on for you, it's a scary, scary, so real time. But at the same time, I know I'm saving lives. This is why I'm doing this. This is my justification, because the statute of limitation needs to be raised and lifted.
And we will be taking care of that. All of us will go that march in that Capitol. If the trannies can go there and take over the Capitol, surely a couple of Christians go in there and have a civil conversation with the lawmakers about something like this.
Something that tears kids apart, you've got to be able to do that, for sure.
And as you end your testimony, how about let's give some praise to God and what God has done for you since then, and deliverance and healing and all these things.
Through this whole process, I've been able to, the crazy thing is I did have to retire from the fire department 8 screws later in my shoulder, sooner than I wanted to, for sure. But it was right before the precipice of this beginning to happen. God knew I would not be able to be pumping a house fire at 2 o'clock in the morning with this on the back of my brain. With this at the tip of my tongue, he knew that my fire department life had to be over and for my new life to begin. And that new life is saving kids.
Amen.
And so what I get to do now, I'm in my 2nd year now as a PE teacher and a basketball coach, track coach, and I save kids' lives every single day. And they save mine. Don't get me wrong. Coach O's in the house. I mean, it is.
How many kids do you think you saved from Brent McGee since you've done this? Since now he's gone, how many kids do you think have been spared now? How many more years would this go on if you didn't tell your story? And I ask that because it's important to make sure people understand you have to speak up.
Another 10 years, probably.
I think he would have carried on till he couldn't have carried on any longer.
Sure.
This is a cocaine addict who never gets sober of their cocaine use never stops using cocaine. When you have an out, like the Dairy Queen that he has, is an in for somebody to always show up, and he can always groom the minute he gets these boys applying to go to work at Watumka Dairy Queen. So he doesn't have to be at school. The grooming's not stopping
So
at
Dairy
all.
Queen needs to be dealt with too.
Dairy Queen is,
Corporate.
it's 100%. That's what little kid, who doesn't want ice cream? Who doesn't want to work at the only fast food restaurant in Dairy Queen or in Wetumpka? And he owns the Dairy Queen. So if he owns it and he doesn't work at the school no longer,
No, there's nobody. There's nobody watching him. Nobody.
he has nobody. You can't be held accountable for being an owner at Dairy Queen and molesting boys. Sorry.
You know about the kids at school. If he's doing it there, how many kids do you think at the Dairy Queen have been harmed by him? Who maybe don't even know who he is, just some guy giving him ice cream.
You know, we could probably be in the number of 75 to 100 kids. And I can tell you this, before he blocked me, before his wife blocked me, going through his social media, he hasn't missed a generation. Has not missed one generation.
Wow.
And I can see that. But knowing we saved about 8 kids so far.
And Mary wants me to, can you tell them how this group of boys and now men are supporting each other and disclosing the abuse? They can remain anonymous if you like, but how are you guys all supporting each other?
So the way we can support is you can go to caseyyochum at gmail.com. We have a group now with text messages and emails.
I would recommend you getting a secure app to communicate with people. I'll show you that when we're done.
Okay.
Encrypted so that nobody can see your messages, no pry eyes, no nothing. Just you talking whoever you want without anybody being able to intercept your messages.
So you hear that first. We'll be dropping a format to contact me to get in touch, because I've been there and I've done it, and I know how hard it is. And I've been fortunate enough that these other kids have come to me, and we have went to the law, that the authorities that work in their area and covering their story, they trust me, and I trust them, because this is something you don't make up. And you have to find somebody who's walked in your footsteps and who they can trust. And if we save one life, that's what I said, we're moving mountains. But we're moving mountains, we're moving pyramids, we're making the skies bluer again and the grass greener. One day, this Jerry Sandusky, Brent McGee will be behind bars. And it's not far off that his wife will be with him once they get in the digital footprint, because therefore you can't lie. And right now, you can lie, and you can lie, and you can lie. But every one of that I've talked to in the town of Wetumpka knows you're lying. They know you're lying. They know the McGees are liars. So that is.
How come the video started over on YouTube?
What do you mean? No, he's still going.
Okay, maybe I'm not on the right channel.
Is there anything you want to add, or do you want Jim to say a couple of words?
I'll
or?
say something.
I knew you would. I just want you to be on the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this platform.
And when you're done, I got something I want to do for him too.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you for having the ears to listen.
Tell them not to go anywhere yet, because after Jim says I'm going to do something for you, I want everybody to.
So don't go anywhere right now. Jim's got something to say, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you know anybody from Wetumpka or their surrounding towns who's ever had a special name, that they've ever stayed the night at Brent's house, Don't assume nothing happened. Because I promise you, you think they're stronger than that. You think there's no way. Guess what? I tried out for the Braves. I played college football. I played college soccer. I was as tough as what you thought could come around. And it happened to me. I was a combat medic, a fireman, and it happened to me. So please, don't take for granted. Have a real talk and make them talk, because it's a hard thing. I know some of these boys have told their stories here and there, and it took several times for them to finally come clean. Excuse me. But it's, pray for them, because it's hard. It's embarrassing, especially when there's 18, 19, 20, 21, all the way to 35, 36, 37-year-old boys / to men have girlfriends now and have babies. It's hard to come forward. Yeah. But if they've had an alcoholic life, if they've had a substance abuse life, please understand where it started. It started at the good old boy's house that has faked and pulled the rug out from everybody, and everybody thought was a good guy. Mm-hmm. If they claim to have stayed the night at Brent McGee's house and Donna McGee's house, that's what was set in action. Yep. That's where they started destroying lives for kids, and they're getting away with it. Make a stand. Together we unite. God heals, God wins. Amen. Jim?
Good, Jim. After he's done, I'm going to put something for you. Everybody knows Jim. Good job. Do that 10 more times.
That was Casey Yochum telling his experience from Watumka, Oklahoma. Watumka, Oklahoma is just one of many, many places in this country where such activities have taken place. I know of 4 men in the Elkton, Virginia area who need to come forward. Many more across this country that I know need to come forward to the public. You've come forward to me in the past, and you need to come forward and make the story public that you alone can tell. Casey Yochum is a hero. He's a real man. He's doing what a real man should do. A real man who loves his children. A real man who loves people. A real man who wants to see justice for evildoers. And so Casey Yochum is an example, a role model for every person out there who has the same exact story. And I've heard it for 40 years of the ministry. And that's why I have done what I have done in helping other individuals come forward, expose perverts, expose rapists, child molesters, and that is why I have done what I've done and will do what I will do. Thank you. Here we have Rich.
They said hi to you, Jim. I just saw it on. But everybody's saying hi to you on there. All right. So, what Casey didn't get a chance to tell you guys is there's more than just an emotional cost to this. There's more than just the psychological cost to this. Because growing like this, and Casey's sitting right here, there's a lot of stuff that happens in your life, and there's a lot of opportunities lost, and there's a lot of struggle, whether it's financially and all these things here. So what I want to ask you guys to do tonight is for Casey, because we We had dinner with Casey and Jim. Amanda made us a nice dinner tonight. We all enjoyed some fellowship and dinner. And tomorrow night, I'm going to announce what we're going to be doing going forward. And we've asked Casey to join us in it, but I'll save it for tomorrow night. But what I'm asking you guys tonight to do is, the links are scrolling across the bottom there. I'd like to take up an offering for Casey tonight, because coming forward isn't exactly easy. And if you think for 1 second that coming forward means you're going to be a celebrity, you're going to be hailed as a hero by the media and the general public, you're wrong. Of course, to us, he's a hero. To us as Christians, to those of us who believe in God and love God and trust God. As Jim pointed out earlier at dinner, those of us who actually care about people. When we preach out there in the streets, this isn't just a game, this isn't sport. We don't want to go out there and preach and go home. We actually want to help people. And we want to help Brother Casey tonight. I don't know what you need, but I'd like to take up an offering, and anything that comes in tonight, I would like to give to Casey. Just to help him, let him know we love him, care about him, and support him. So if you guys would, you can go on our website, officialstreetpreachers.com/give, Zelle, it's admin at Official Street Preachers, or our Venmo at Official Street Preachers. And anything tonight that comes in, up until for the next 24 hours, we will turn it over and give it to Brother Casey. Because there is a cost to this, to coming forward. Because every single pedophile out there, every single one of McGee's friends and family are going to do their best, and they are going to do their damnedest to try to discredit this man. Make no mistake about it, there is a cost for him coming forward. But we as Christians need to band together and let our brother know that we love him and we support him, and we're going to be there for him no matter what. So if you guys would, I'd appreciate that tonight. The links are in the description of the video, like I just said them here, and they're scrolling across the bottom there. Tomorrow night, we have another announcement we're going to make about where we're going to be going forward in this. Jim, myself, what we talked about earlier, Casey, Dave Grisham, and the guys from Shadow Ops have a project we're going to be working on moving forward. We're in a different time. I told you, this is a different season now. So buckle up, guys, because this is the direction we're going. We're going out there, and we're going to save children, and we're going to take children out of this mess so that they don't wind up as dysfunctional adults, or people who, because the one part you didn't talk about was the one man who drank himself to death. One of McGee's victims who drank himself to death. You'll never hear his story because he's no longer alive to tell us. How many of those people are out there that have been abused by these people who are now no longer alive that can't share their stories? We need to be a voice for them too. Appreciate you guys. Love you all. Please consider for Casey. Again, next 24 hours and then it comes in is for Casey. Love you guys. God bless you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
God.